Tropes, for better or worse, are usually a necessary part of storytelling. You'd be hard-pressed to find any story that doesn't use some sort of trope, regardless of the medium it's being told in. Now, for the people who don't know what a trope is, the Merriam-Webster's dictionary describes it as a common or overused theme or device or a cliche. Some of these cliches would be enemies to lovers, the power of friendship, the main character having a demonic entity inside of them, just to name a few. But among all these tropes, there's one that gets me every time, and it's the focus of this video. This trope is called the enemy without. To understand the enemy without, let's go to TV tropes and see what it's described as. When someone's inner darkness doesn't quite take over someone, but it does escape their body and rampage. Fighting someone else's enemy without is tricky, as often it will either kill the person projecting it if it dies, or it will just resurrect itself until the actual darkness in the hero's heart is dealt with by the hero themselves. Often symbolically represents repression and the hero's refusal to acknowledge the darkness within or some sort of aspect of themselves. Victory is achieved half the time via reintegrating with it. The other half of the time it can be seen as representing some inner demon, and thus it must be abandoned, purged, or confronted and conquered. Sometimes this battle will occur inside someone's own head in a dreamscape, making it both the enemy within and the enemy without at the same time. It may require saying "I'm not afraid of you" to weaken it enough to beat it. This approach to the trope is commendable, as it fosters a nuanced storytelling that encourages self-acceptance and personal growth. It emphasizes the notion of harnessing one's inner strengths rather than succumbing to perceived weaknesses. Today, I will delve into 3 of my most cherished examples, beginning with the main power system of Bleach revolves around the Zanpakuto, a sword that operates as an extension of the wielder's soul, being the physical manifestation of someone's soul. The closer you are with yourself, the stronger your grasp of your Zanpakuto becomes, as you learn more about yourself through your blade. If someone's instincts is in touch with their Zanpakuto, they are in touch with their soul. Something as simple as knowing your Zanpakuto's name could change the outcome of a battle between you and your opponent. It is key to power, your relationship with yourself. This is where Ichigo Kurosaki comes into play, a character so fundamentally at odds with himself and the power he was given at birth that he views it as a curse, and he's trapped in a constant tug of war with himself with his Zanpakuto Zangetsu. I've already made videos more in depth on Ichigo and why I find him fascinating, and I've briefly spoken about this relationship with Zangetsu before. It's just so well done, and it's one of Bleach's strongest aspects and embodies this trope to its core. Ichigo's rejection of his darker side, the love for battle, that instinct that had led him to unintentionally suppress himself just like the other characters in this video, allowing himself to be taken by his inner darkness on different occasions. Even when Ichigo defeats this version of himself, it still lingers, because the key to overcoming this darkness is to not overcome it at all. And that's the beauty of this trope, to embrace your darker half, use it to your benefit instead of fighting against it, allowing it to control you. Ichigo finally comes to this realization during the Blade is Me section of the story, accepting and realizing that this darkness was never his enemy. It was always there to protect him, a fundamental recontextualization of the story. And with this acceptance of Zangetsu, Ichigo is reforged anew, stronger than ever before, with no more fog clouding his thoughts. Bleach truly is a masterclass with its storytelling and its characters, and this being the first time I've encountered this trope, which brings me to my second example, and it's fitting to come after Bleach, because during my time with this story, all I could think about is Ichigo's relationship with Zangetsu. So, let's talk about Tekken is one of my favorite franchises of all time. It's the only fighting game that I keep up with when it comes to lore. In the sea of convoluted fighting game stories, Tekken is the one that I gravitate towards. It's silly, very tropey, but at times it's shown that it's capable of telling a very serious story when it needs to. And it has a lot of characters that are vastly interesting, and it's the reason why this video was made in the first place. I got done playing Tekken 8 story mode, and it does a lot of things right. One of which, and the topic of this portion of the video, Jin Kazama. Jin has always struggled with a darkness deep inside of him, and it's hindered his life for a long time, leading to many unfortunate events starting as early as 19, as he first unlocks this devil within him as a reflex action after being shot in the head by his own grandfather Heihachi. And ever since that new awakening, Jin has been on the run not only from his grandfather, but from what lurks within, this constant rejection of the devil within. In his quest to rid himself of the devil gene, Jin cast the world into chaos, leaving death and destruction in his wake to draw out an ancient entity known as Azazel, thinking that defeating him would end the devil gene for good. This is in vain, however. Even though Azazel is defeated, it does not purge Jin of the devil within him, and it leaves Jin continuing down a path of redemption that Tekken 8 tackles. Within Tekken 8, we're given new information that recontextualizes a lot of older events within the Tekken lore, and in a way that makes more sense when looking back on those events. It's revealed that Devil Jin was never trying to harm Jin at all. He wasn't some evil entity hell-bent on destruction like Kazuya. Just like Zangetsu, it was there to help Jin. And looking back at the events of Tekken's past, this is pretty clear, because every time Devil Jin has emerged in canon, it's always been in self-defense. In Tekken 3, after being shot by Heihachi, in Tekken 4, during the battle with Kazuya and Heihachi, two people who were trying to kill Jin, and in Tekken 5 when Jinpachi awakens, which I theorize is the Devil Gene's defense mechanism to the evil spirit that possessed and resurrected Jinpachi in the first place. Now, Jin does end up being consumed by this power again in Tekken 5 after he's defeated by Haro, another defensive mechanism, as he needs to win the tournament to rid himself of the Devil Gene. This information, however, is revealed to us in Tekken 6, but it did take place during the events of Tekken 5. Speaking of Tekken 6, it is the only game where Devil Jin does not make a canon appearance within the story. He would, however, appear in Tekken 7, freeing himself from captivity and killing the soldiers that tried to kill him and Harong. This idea that Devil Jin isn't some malicious entity is further backed up during Jin's arcade ladder ending in Tekken 4, where he flies off, leaving behind one white feather among the black ones. And in Tekken 6, where Jin is arguably his most evil, Devil Jin never makes an appearance. Everything Jin does in the game is by his own hands. Tekken 8 makes Jin confront himself, question his old ideas about the devil within him, and he's able to accept this part of himself and treat it as an ally, allowing him to awaken to a greater power to eventually defeat Kazuya and ultimately save the world in the process. What I do love about Tekken 8 is the way it integrates its story into the gameplay. The confrontation between Jin and Devil Jin in this game transcends both narrative and gameplay. It masterfully weaves storytelling into the very fabric of the experience. Initially, players are led to believe they control Jin, only for the camera to swivel and control unexpectedly, shifting to Devil Jin during this heated confrontation. This seamless integration is nothing short of phenomenal, leaving a lasting impression. You know what else would be phenomenal? If you subscribed and liked the video. I make this kind of analytical content on all things pop culture, and if that's your style, I think this channel is the place for you. And I'd like to get to 20k by the end of the year, and if you want to take that support a step further, consider becoming a channel member or even join the Patreon. If that's not your thing, you could use my referral link for Boomslank and get 10% off some sweet anime merch. Also, I have a Twitter, so go ahead and give me a follow there if you want to keep in contact with me on a more personal level. And with Tekken out of the way, let's move on to my final example. Fan of this series, there's a few characters that dabble with this trope, Terra being one of them, and even Aqua. But for this example, we'll be looking at the series' deuteragonist, Riku. Darkness has been a part of Riku since the very beginning. Unlike Terra, he was somewhat lucky to come to terms with his darkness early on in Rechain of Memories. In the original Kingdom Hearts 1, Riku becomes a vessel for Ansem, letting the darkness in his heart go unchecked as his body is consumed. After Ansem is defeated, Riku regains his body, but the darkness with him does not go away. It is intrinsically a part of his soul, and throughout Rechain of Memories, Riku begins his journey of self-acceptance as he faces off against his demons. This comes to a head by the end of the journey. Diz offers Riku a choice. Which road would he lead? The one of light or the one of darkness? Riku, having finally found himself, and probably the first person in the series since Xehanort to have a firm grasp at this point over his darkness, says this:
"Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road."
Do you mean the Twilight Road to Nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
Similar to Ichigo, Riku's journey does not end here. He still grapples with the darkness in his soul throughout 258 over 2 days and Kingdom Hearts 2 respectively. He's finally able to get a full grasp of his darkness at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 and during his journey in Dream Drop Distance on his quest to not only become a Keyblade Master but to wake Sora from his sleep. What I like about the storytelling within this example is that not only does Riku's struggle and subsequent mastery of darkness reflect within the narrative, but it's also apparent within the gameplay as Riku uses both light and dark attacks moving forward. By the time of Kingdom Hearts 3, Riku is not only a master of the Keyblade but a master of his darkness as well. This trope's brilliance lies within its ability to delve beyond physical conflict, crafting a deeper layer of struggle for its characters. Here, they are engaged in a fierce internal battle, forced to confront hidden truths and grapple with self-doubt and self-loathing. The exploration of the enemy within resonates profoundly, reflecting a universal human experience. The journey of self-discovery and the fight against internal demons are beautifully portrayed, making this trope a truly moving experience. Obsession.
My soul.
You know the trope. That one character who just can't let go, whether they're chasing a singular goal, an idea, or even another person. Obsession is a huge part of how stories are told in movies, TVs, and games. It's what gives us everything from heartbreaking villains to super-driven heroes. In today's video, I'm going to dive through some of my favorite ways in which obsession shows up on the screen, from characters dead set on revenge or power to those totally fixated on love or their art. Allow us to dive deep into this trope, starting with Sasuke Uchiha's journey stands as a quintessential exploration of obsession, rooting itself in the catastrophic trauma of the Uchiha clan massacre and the revelation of his brother Itachi Uchiha's role in said massacre. This singular, all-consuming drive for revenge against Itachi and subsequently against the elite village that orchestrated his clan's demise becomes his sole compass of existence. Initially, this powerful obsession proves Sasuke with an almost superhuman resolve, propelling him to seek out forbidden knowledge and power from figures like Orochimaru, and awakening the increasingly potent Mangekyo Sharingan and its abilities. This relentless pursuit grants him an undeniable edge in combat, transforming him from a prodigious but ultimately typical shinobi into one of the most formidable forces in the Naruto universe, seemingly granting him the strength necessary to achieve his dark aims. The advantages of this path are starkly overshadowed by its devastating costs. Sasuke's obsession acts as a corrosive agent, systematically eroding his humanity and severing his most vital connections. It drives him to abandon Team 7, betray the bonds of friendship with Naruto and Sakura, and commit increasingly morally ambiguous acts, including aligning himself with sinister organizations and attempting to kill former comrades. His worldview narrows dramatically, blinding him to truths and the nuances that don't serve his singular goal, transforming him from an avenger into a perceived terrorist in the eyes of many. The pursuit of revenge leaves him in a constant state of internal turmoil, plagued by hatred and utterly isolated. He achieves immense power but sacrifices his emotional well-being, his moral compass, and the possibility of a peaceful existence, illustrating the harrowing reality of while obsession can forge unparalleled strength, it often does so at a catastrophic expense of one's soul. While Sasuke's arc vividly demonstrates the self-destructive nature of revenge-fueled obsession, leading him down a path of increasing isolation and moral compromise despite vast power gains, he is far from the only character to embody this consuming drive. Shifting from the world of shinobi to a galaxy far, far away, we find a strikingly similar thematic exploration in the character of Much like Sasuke, Kylo Ren's identity is inextricably bound to an immense inherited obsession, not with vengeance for a clan, but with the legacy of his grandfather, Anakin Skywalker, and the absolute power of the dark side. While I could easily talk about Anakin Skywalker, I'd like to pivot to give his grandson some much-deserved focus. Kylo Ren's obsession is a multi-layered torment, fundamentally rooted in his struggle with identity and the crushing weight of his lineage. Unlike Sasuke's clear-cut goal of revenge, Kylo's fixation is a complex blend of idolization and self-doubt towards his grandfather, Darth Vader. He is determined to finish what Vader started, a perceived quest to eradicate the last vestige of the Jedi and fully embrace the dark side. This obsession manifests in his emulation of Vader's appearance, from his menacing mask to his unstable lightsaber, and in his desperate, often theatrical attempts to prove his commitment to Snoke and the First Order. The pros of this path are fleeting and illusory. It grants him a perceived sense of belonging and power within the First Order hierarchy, and his conviction fuels his aggression in battle. He believes he is shedding weakness and growing stronger by embracing the darkness. However, the cons are devastatingly apparent. This obsession creates a perpetual internal conflict, a constant pull to the light that he desperately tries to suppress, leading to violent outbursts and emotional instability. It isolates him from his family, culminating in the tragic murder of his own father, Han Solo, an act intended to solidify his commitment to the dark side, but one which only further fragments his soul. His relentless pursuit of Vader's legacy prevents him from forming genuine connections, drives him into committing atrocities against the Resistance, and ultimately leaves him a conflicted, often miserable figure, constantly battling the light within him. Kylo Ren's obsession vividly illustrates how an idealized, often misunderstood past can become a destructive anchor, preventing a character from forging their own identity and finding true peace. Luke Skywalker's fateful involvement becomes an inescapable knot in the fabric of Kylo Ren's obsession. As Ben Solo's disillusioned master, Luke's fleeting moment of doubt, a flicker of fear sensing the darkness within his nephew, and contemplating a preemptive strike. For Ben, this wasn't a master's momentary weakness, but a profound betrayal, solidifying his belief that the light side, represented by Luke Skywalker and the Jedi Order, was inherently untrustworthy and weak. This perceived abandonment pushed him definitively into Snoke, or rather Palpatine's manipulative embrace, and cemented his commitment to follow Vader's perceived strength. Thus, Luke, once a guiding light, paradoxically became another facet of Kylo Ren's destructive obsession, representing the past he felt compelled to destroy to fully embrace the terrifying yet seductive power he craved. Moving from characters shaped by inherited legacies and galaxy-spanning conflicts, we encounter another compelling and indeed often debated portrayal of obsession within a different kind of post-apocalyptic landscape. Just as Kylo Ren's relentless pursuit of distorted ideals led him down a dark, cynical path, we find Abby from The Last of Us Part 2 driven by an equally consuming yet profound human vengeance. Her narrative, much like Kylo Ren and Sasuke's, plunges viewers into the brutal consequences of unwavering dedication to a singular destructive goal, placing her at the center of a story that incites vigorous discussion for its unflinching depiction of obsession's toll. Now, the irony isn't lost on me enjoying two extremely controversial pieces of media and talking about them back to back, so if you haven't clicked off this video by now, let's dive a little. Abby Anderson's narrative in The Last of Us Part 2 is a visceral, unflinching exploration of how obsession can not only define a character, but also perpetuate a brutal cycle of violence. Her singular, all-consuming drive is the raw, unyielding desire for revenge against Joel Miller, the man who murdered her father, Jerry Anderson, at the climax of the first game. This deep-seated fixation transforms her from a young woman into a formidable, almost monstrous physical force. She dedicates years to intense physical training, hardening her body and mind, becoming a highly effective and ruthless soldier within the WLF. In the immediate sense, this obsession provides her with an unwavering purpose in a broken world. It grants her a immense physical strength, strategic cunning, and a fierce loyalty to her immediate circle within the WLF. It's a driving force that allows her to survive and even thrive amidst immense danger. However, her successful act of revenge against Joel brings her no peace or satisfaction. Instead, it immediately ignites the retaliatory fury of Ellie, trapping Abby in a new, even more brutal cycle of violence. Her obsession blinds her to the broader implications of her action and the humanity of those around her, including the collateral damage inflicted upon innocent lives. This relentless pursuit of her goal ultimately leads to the death of her closest friends, the disintegration of her relationships, and a profound emotional emptiness. It is only through new connections, particularly with the Seraphite siblings Lev and Yada, that Abby begins to pivot, attempting to break free from the very obsession that defined her for so long. Her journey starkly illustrates that even when a vengeful obsession is fulfilled, it often leaves nothing but destruction in its wake, both for the target and the one consumed by the chase. This relentless, self-destructive nature of revenge-fueled obsession transcends genres and settings, echoing through even vastly different narrative landscapes. From the gritty, infected world of the American apocalypse, we now turn our gaze to the historical backdrop of Meiji-era Japan. Enishi Yukishiro from Rurouni Kenshin embodies another poignant and ultimately tragic figure consumed by a singular consuming vendetta. His very existence is predicated on avenging a loss, demonstrating how the wounds of the past can forge an unbreakable and ultimately destructive chain of obsession across time and circumstance. Rurouni Kenshin is among one of my favorite series of all time, and within that, Enishi is my favorite character, and his battle with obsession is just as fascinating, maybe even more so than anyone else on this list. But before we get into Enishi, if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you all. We've hit 14,000 subscribers and I want to get to 20k by the end of the year. And on the topic of support, I'd like to shout out two of our channel's sponsors. First of all, I'd like to thank Whitebox Entertainment for reaching out to me and sending me this care package to showcase the upcoming Togen Anki anime. As of the recording of this video, this series is already out on Netflix and Crunchyroll, and so the lovely people at Whitebox Entertainment sent me a little care package here with the first volume of the manga and a little guide for the anime. The bloodlines of Oni and Momotaro have been passed down among certain humans for generations. Over thousands of years, these two factions formed the Momotaro Agency and the Oni Agency, respectively, and have been locked in internal conflict. We follow the main protagonist, Shiki Inose, who earns of his Oni lineage after he was attacked by one of the Momotaro. Again, this series will be available to stream on Netflix, Crunchyroll, and Amazon Prime weekly, so pick your poison. So guys, do me a huge favor and check this anime out. Now, for the second sponsor of this video, I'd like to shout out Factor Optical for letting me pick out two beautiful prescription glasses. If you guys are trying to get you some sweet glasses like these, or any glasses really, click my referral link in the description and use code BEYONDANIMATION for 10% off your new purchase, and I get a commission for every purchase you make. It helps out the channel, and it helps you out to get some cool glasses. With all of that out of the way, let's get back to the points of this video. Enishi's existence is entirely predicated on an all-consuming obsession with vengeance against Kenshin Himura for the accidental death of his beloved older sister, Tomoe. This trauma, vividly depicted in both the Trust and Betrayal OVA and the live-action film, where his hair famously turns white from the shock, is exacerbated by his haunting obsession with Tomoe's fleeting smile, the very last expression he witnessed on her face before her tragic demise at Kenshin's hand. This vision of her serene happiness brutally snatched away forges an unbreakable chain of hatred that defines his every waking moment. Crucially, Enishi's quest transcends mere retribution. It transforms into a twisted, desperate attempt to regain that lost smile, or at least the peace and purity it represents. He believes that by inflicting upon Kenshin a suffering so profound it would constitute a living hell, a torment mirroring his own endless agony, he can somehow retroactively rectify the past exhaust and fill the void left by Tomoe's absence. This singular obsession grants Enishi extraordinary drive and a chilling strategic brilliance. From building the formidable Shanghai Mafia and amassing immense wealth to recruiting the diverse and powerful Six Comrades, he develops a unique, aggressive fighting style that leverages his nerves to enhance his power and speed, a brutal testament to his self-driven evolution, as he systematically dismantles Kenshin's life and reputation before delivering the ultimate psychological blow by faking Karu's death. Designed to inflict the exact kind of helpless despair he attributes to Kenshin. Yet, despite his immense power and the chilling effectiveness of his revenge plots, Enishi's path is overwhelmingly tragic. His obsession utterly consumes him, stripping him of any semblance of peace or genuine happiness. He becomes a prisoner of his past, unable to forge new connections or find meaning beyond his vendetta. Even after coming face to face with Kenshin at the final standstill, he remains tormented and unfulfilled, proving that even the most meticulously executed revenge ultimately leaves a hollow victory, and the longed-for smile remains forever out of reach. Enishi's story is a stark illustration that while obsession can grant formidable capabilities and a clear, albeit dark, purpose, it ultimately isolates and destroys the individual from within, leaving them trapped in an endless cycle of pain. Enishi's story ends bittersweet like most on this list, as he forgoes his revenge to save Karu, realizing that Tomoe would never grant him grace for his pursuit of revenge based on a fundamental misunderstanding of history. While Enishi's obsession fixates on a brutal past and the twisted hope of restoring a lost innocence through vengeance, the concept of an all-consuming drive takes a strikingly different yet equally intense form when directed inward, shifting from historical samurai drama to the high-stakes, sweat-drenched world of modern jazz. Andrew Neiman from 2016's Whiplash embodies an obsession rooted not in retribution, but in the relentless, often self-destructive pursuit of artistic perfection. His journey profoundly delves into the cost and potential triumphs of pushing oneself beyond all conventional limits in the quest of unparalleled greatness. Andrew's drive is intensely internal, fueled by an insatiable desire to escape mediocrity and etch his name into the annals of jazz drumming, to become a legend like Buddy Rich. This obsession manifests in an almost pathological dedication, practices until his hands bleed, enduring excruciating pain, sacrificing sleep, and cutting off nearly all personal connections, including his budding relationship with Nicole, seeing them as distractions for his ultimate goal. The pros of this relentless path are undeniably potent. Andrew achieves an extraordinary level of technical mastery, pushing the very boundaries of his physical and mental endurance under the brutal, psychologically abusive tutelage of Terrence Fletcher. His talent is undeniably honed, transforming him into a drummer capable of breathtaking precision, speed, and musicality. He develops an unshakable resilience and a fierce competitive spirit that allows him to thrive in the face of immense pressure. However, the cons are equally, if not more, devastating. His obsession isolates him completely, stripping him from empathy and turning him into a rigid, almost dehumanized instrument of ambition. The emotional and physical toll is immense. He suffers constant abuse, both inflicted by Fletcher and self-inflicted in his relentless practice. His pursuit leads him to moments of public humiliation, doubt, and even a horrific car accident. Ultimately, his journey becomes less about the joy of music and more about a brutal, masochistic quest for validation. The film culminates in an electrifying, cathartic drum solo, a moment of undeniable brilliance where Andrew seemingly achieves his impossible standard. But at what cost to his soul? Has he truly found happiness, or has he become the very monster of ambition he risked becoming? His obsession has delivered greatness, but perhaps at the price of his very humanity. Moving from the high-pressure confines of a jazz conservatory to the brutal, existential landscape of a deadly game. While Enju's drive was an inward quest for personal mastery, Gi-hun's emerging obsession, poised to define his arc in Squid Game 2 and 3, stems from a far more external and morally charged place. Having survived unimaginable horrors and witnessed the depths of human depravity orchestrated by the elites, his previous desperation for money has now morphed into a singular, unwavering resolve to expose and dismantle the very system that preys on the vulnerable. This shift from personal survival to a righteous, all-consuming crusade against injustice marks a powerful evolution of obsession, one that promises a new kind of sacrifice and danger for Gi-hun, far removed from the drum kit, but equally fraught with peril. Having survived his brutal gauntlet, Gi-hun initially attempts to resume a normal life, grappling with immense trauma and the overwhelming guilt of his survival. But his encounter with the dying Il-nam and the subsequent re-emergence of the frontman fundamentally shatters any hope of peace. This drive compels him to abandon his flight to see his daughter, effectively sacrificing the new life he supposedly won and the newly acquired riches that came with said win. The raw, destructive nature of this obsession is starkly highlighted in the chilling Russian roulette game he plays with the salesman, a literal life or death game to test their ideals that was a bone-chilling, anxiety-inducing watch. By putting his life on the line purely for information and a confrontation, Gi-hun demonstrates a self-destructive recklessness. The act itself is profoundly destructive not only because of the immense physical danger, but also because it signals his complete psychological re-entry into the game's brutal world. It reveals that his obsession has consumed him to the point where he's willing to throw away his hard-won freedom and life, all in pursuit of a potentially unwinnable war. This path, while morally driven, promises immense personal sacrifice, isolation, and a descent back into the very darkness he fought so hard to escape. The immense survivor's guilt for having lived while so many perished, combined with the sheer dehumanizing spectacle he was forced to be a part of, left inevitable scars. Gi-hun's initial desperation mutated into a righteous fury against the exploitation of human misery. His obsession therefore isn't just about revenge, but about dismantling the entire brutal apparatus. What these characters vividly show us is that obsession is rarely a simple force. It's a double-edged sword capable of granting immense power, focus, and the drive to achieve the seemingly impossible. Yet time and time again, we see it demand a devastating price. The sacrifice of relationships, a descent into moral ambiguity, profound psychological torment, and often an ultimate emptiness no achieved goal can fill. These stories aren't just thrilling narratives, they're powerful reminders of the fragile line between passionate pursuit and self-destructive fixation, urging us to question what we truly gain and what we irrevocably lose when we allow a singular purpose to consume our very being.
In every story, there are characters who embody strength, courage, or even tragedy. But some of the most powerful figures are those who carry something much simpler, yet far more enduring: hope. These are characters who refuse to give in when the world falls apart, who remind us that even in the darkest chapters, there's still light to be found. Whether they rise against impossible odds, inspire others to keep moving forward, or simply hold on to kindness when everything else is lost, these hopeful characters shape the heart of storytelling itself. Today, we'll take a look at some of my favorite examples of these characters in fictional stories. I'd like to start things off light. Hope can take many forms in fiction. Sometimes it's loud and heroic, and other times it's quiet and personal. So before we dive into heavier examples, let's begin with a character who embodies that balance in a unique way.
Hold on to the soft girl, baby, hold on. Gonna have some fun, yeah.
Rumi's story is defined not just by who she wants to become, but where she comes from. She isn't just fighting demons. She carries a piece of that world inside of her. Born with demon heritage, Rumi constantly walks the line between two identities, one that connects to her darkness and one that yearns for light. For many characters, that kind of origin might feel like a curse, something to hide or to run from. But what makes Rumi such a powerful figure of hope is that she refuses to let her heritage dictate her future. Instead of seeing her demon blood as a source of shame, she learns to accept it and even use it as a strength in protecting the people she cares about. This duality makes her stand out. She embodies the very struggle of hope itself.
the tension between despair and possibility, between destruction and creation. Rumi shows that hope isn't just about wishing for a brighter future. It's about facing the darkest truths of who we are and believing that we can still become something more. In her, hope is not blind optimism. It's active, deliberate, and hard-won. She shows us that even when your bloodline ties you to darkness, you still have the power to walk towards the light.
This is what I am.
But moving from Rumi, we see hope shine in characters who stand tall as unwavering beacons for others, no matter the cost. Few embody that fiery, selfless spirit more than Kyojiro Rengoku. Rengoku's presence in Demon Slayer is one of the clearest examples of hope expressed through pure conviction. As the Flame Hashira, he radiates strength, warmth, and an utmost unbreakable optimism. From the moment he steps on screen, there's a sense that Rengoku sees life differently. Where others hesitate, he moves forward with certainty, and where others doubt, he offers encouragement. His smile, his confidence, and his unwavering energy all serve one purpose: to give strength to those around him.
Set your heart ablaze.
But what makes Rengoku so memorable isn't his charisma, it's the fact that his hope never wavers, even when he knows he may not survive. During his battle with Akaza, he stands against overwhelming odds, fully aware of the danger, and yet he chooses to fight with everything he has. He doesn't do this out of desperation, but out of love. Love for his duty, for the people he protects, and for the future of those who will carry on after him. In his final moments, Rengoku turns what could have been despair into inspiration. Instead of mourning his own end, he affirms his faith in Tanjiro and the others, entrusting them to carry his flame forward. His death is tragic, but it also cements his role as a beacon of hope. Proof that hope isn't about denying loss, but about leaving behind light that continues to guide others long after you're gone. But not every symbol of hope is defined by sacrifice. Some are defined by their ability to inspire simply by existing. Few characters in fiction represent that idea, and no one more clearly than Superman.
I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared. I wake up every morning and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other and I try to make the best choices I can. People were going to die. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength.
The Man of Steel emerges as a beacon of hope, not through grandiose displays of power, but through his unwavering commitment to kindness and compassion. Gun's portrayal emphasizes that true heroism lies in everyday acts of goodness, even when the world seems indifferent or hostile. Superman's journey in this film is marked by his efforts to balance his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. This internal struggle makes him relatable and humanizes the character, allowing audiences to connect with his vulnerabilities and aspirations. His actions inspire those around him, not because of his strength, but because of his steadfast belief in doing what is right, regardless of the challenges he faces. Through this lens, Superman becomes more than just a superhero. He embodies the idea that hope is not a passive expectation, but an active choice to make the world better, one compassionate act at a time. Superman shows us that hope can come from compassion, courage, and the choice to inspire others through everyday acts of goodness. Because if Superman could do it, then so can you. But while Superman shows us that hope can come from compassion, courage, and the choice to inspire others through everyday acts of goodness, in a different world, Satoru Gojo embodies another kind of one rooted in confidence, protection, and the belief that those under his care can overcome even the darkest of threats. In many ways, both characters are Superman, though they inspire in very different ways. When we think of hopeful characters, Satoru Gojo isn't usually the first name that comes to mind. He's flashy, irreverent, and often downright arrogant. At first glance, he seems more like a show-off than a symbol of hope. but that's precisely what makes him an unconventional beacon of inspiration. Gojo's hope doesn't come from optimism or a sunny disposition like Rengoku, nor from an unwavering compassion like Superman. Instead, it comes from sheer confidence and certainty that he can protect the people who rely on him. In a world filled with curses, fear, and constant danger, Gojo's presence alone changes the game. His students, his allies, and even his enemies feel the weight of his power, but more importantly, they feel the sense of possibility. With Gojo around, the impossible suddenly becomes possible. What makes him particularly inspiring is that he embodies hope through action rather than words. He doesn't lecture or preach. He intervenes, he fights, and he shields those who cannot protect themselves. His unconventional approach, mixing humor, audacity, and overwhelming strength, shows us that hope isn't always gentle or quiet. Sometimes it's bold, unpredictable, and even a little chaotic, but it can still give people the courage to face overwhelming odds. In a story where despair is ever present, Gojo reminds us that hope can come in unexpected forms. It can be a confident grin, a powerful strike, or an unshakable assurance that somebody has your back. Even after his death, Gojo's influence endures. Through his students, particularly Yuta and Yuji, his ideals, confidence, and unwavering belief in their potentials continue to inspire. They carry forward his lessons, his sense of possibility, and his unorthodox approach to protecting others. Gojo reminds us that hope isn't just about the person who embodies it. It's about how that inspiration spreads, shaping the next generation to stand taller and fight harder in the face of despair. And in that way, Satoru Gojo stands as a uniquely modern symbol of hope, unconventional, unorthodox, and undeniably inspiring. But before we continue, if you've enjoyed anything so far, please subscribe to the channel. I'd like to hit 20k by the end of the year, and we're almost halfway there. While you're down there, feel free to check out any of my referrals. It greatly helps out the channel so I can keep making these kinds of videos. With that being said, let's get back to today's topic. While Gojo shows us that hope can be bold, chaotic, and unconventional, there are characters whose hope is quieter, forged through pain, reflection, and the choice to atone. Kenshin Himura embodies this form of hope. A hope rooted not in overwhelming power or flashy displays, but in the deliberate decisions to protect life and pursue redemption, no matter the darkness of one's past. Kenshin offers a very different vision of hope. One that is quiet, deliberate, and born from the weight of past mistakes. Unlike Gojo's bold confidence or Rengoku's fiery optimism, Kenshin's hope is rooted in the conscious choice to live differently than he once did. As the former assassin known as Hitokiri Batosai, his past is stained with violence and regret, yet he commits himself to protect life rather than to take it. This commitment is what makes him such a powerful symbol of hope. Every swing of his sword, every decision to fight for justice without killing is a reminder that change is possible, even for those who have walked the darkest paths. Kenshin doesn't inspire through spectacle or power. He inspires through restraint, compassion, and the courage to face the consequences of his actions while striving to do better. His journey shows that hope isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the patient, steady light that guides others through the shadows. It's in the lives he touches, the innocence he saves, and the examples he sets for those who struggle with their own past. Kenshin reminds us that even someone shaped by violence and sorrow can choose a path of healing and protection, and that kind of hope can resonate just as powerful as the flashiest heroics. Through him, hope becomes a testament to redemption, the quiet strength to forge a better future, and the enduring belief that people can change. In contrast, some characters carry hope in a loud, more unyielding way, like Naruto Uzumaki. His hope isn't about personal redemption, it's about refusing to accept the world's limits and inspiring everyone around him to believe that even the most impossible dreams can come true. Naruto is one of fiction's most enduring symbols of hope. From the very beginning, he's defined by struggle, loneliness, and a constant need to prove himself. Rejected and underestimated by his village, Naruto could have easily grown bitter, but instead he chooses to believe in a better future, not just for himself, but for everyone around him. What makes Naruto so inspiring is his refusal to give up, no matter how overwhelming the odds. His hope is infectious. He doesn't just dream of peace or acceptance for himself, he works tirelessly to create it for his friends, his village, and even his enemies. Through perseverance, empathy, and a resilient belief in people's potential, Naruto shows that hope can be active. It's about striving, influencing others, and turning turning the impossible into reality. Even in his darkest moments when he faces betrayal, loss, or the weight of destiny, Naruto's hope never falters. It's the unwavering optimism combined with his willingness to fight for others that cements him as a beacon of inspiration. Through him, we see that hope isn't a quiet choice or a single heroic act. It's a persistent force that can change hearts, mend communities, and ultimately reshape the world. But as I said before, some of the most profound examples of hope are quieter.
The incredible true story and transformation of the man who saved the world.
儚くた歌う世界を君の手で守ったから今はただ翼を畳んでゆっくり眠りなさい永遠の安らぎに包まれて Love through all eternity.
Emerging through leadership, resilience, and the courage to carry a burden alone, we transition to our final character. Makoto Yuki from Persona 3 embodies this more understanding kind, a steady presence whose choices guide others through darkness, even when the weight of the world rests on his shoulders. Makoto Yuki is an unconventional symbol of hope because his strength isn't flashy or overly emotional. Well, it's a little flashy. He's often calm, reserved, and silent, but that silence is part of what makes him so powerful. He leads Seeds, a group of students faced with the relentless threat of the Dark Hour and the apocalyptic entity Nyx. The challenges he faces are existential. Failure could mean the end of humanity, yet Makoto carries this burden with quiet determination, proving stability and guidance when those around him are overwhelmed by fear. It also doesn't help that he literally carries death around inside of him. What makes his hope truly profound is that he ultimately gives his life to save the world. In confronting Nyx, Makoto embraces the ultimate sacrifice, knowing that his death is necessary to protect everyone he cares about. Even in this final act, he doesn't falter. His hope persists throughout the choices he made, the bonds he strengthened, and the trust he placed on his friends. His passing doesn't diminish his impact. Instead, it solidifies him as a pillar of hope that endures beyond life itself. Makoto teaches us that hope can be quiet, selfless, and yet immensely powerful. It isn't always about surviving or triumphing visibly. Sometimes it's about carrying the heaviest burden, facing the darkest forces, and giving everything so that others can continue. Through his leadership, sacrifice, and unwavering courage against Nyx, Makoto Yuki shows that hope can shine brightest in the moments when the world seems destined for darkness. From Rumi to Rengoku, Superman to Gojo, Kenshin to Naruto, and finally Makoto, we've seen that hope in fiction takes many forms. It can be quiet and reflective like Kenshin or Makoto, born from redemption and responsibility. It can be bold and unorthodox like Gojo, flashing confidence and power in the face of despair. It can inspire through sacrifice like Rengoku, leaving a flame for others to carry forward. And it can be infectious and relentless like Superman or Naruto, spreading belief and courage to everyone around them. What unites all these characters is the choices to act in spite of darkness, to protect others, to create a future worth fighting for. Hope isn't a single kind of heroism. It's a force that adapts to circumstances shaped by personality, challenge, and conviction. Whether through selfless sacrifice, quiet guidance, or unwavering optimism, each of these characters reminds us that hope can be found in the most unexpected places, and that, even in fiction, it has the power to inspire, to heal, and to endure. This is Grimtoki. This has been Beyond Animation, and I'll see you in the next one.